The first shadow fell over Manhattan at 08 for 7 hours. Greenwich Mean Time. Then London, Tokyo, Moscow, Sydney. One by one, the skies of Earth darkened as massive alien vessels, the size of city blocks, descended through the clouds like metallic thunderheads. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence that made photographers across the globe point their cameras skyward before the broadcasts began. The transmission reached every device on Earth simultaneously. Television screens, smartphones, radios, even car dashboards flickered with the same alien face, elongated, pale, with eyes like black mirrors. Humans of Earth, the voice resonated with mechanical precision. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Lay down your weapons. Abandon your governments. Submit to our authority, or face complete annihilation. In emergency bunkers beneath the Pentagon, generals stared at satellite feeds showing hundreds of alien craft hovering over major population centers. Secretary of Defense Martinez slammed his fist on the mahogany table, his voice cracking with desperation. We need options, people. What do our weapons experts say? Colonel Hayes, 20-year veteran, shook his head grimly. Our most advanced fighters can't even reach their altitude. Nuclear missiles won't lock onto their ships, some kind of interference. Outside those bunkers, across the world, ordinary people stood in streets and squares, necks craned toward the impossible sight above. In Mumbai, a mother clutched her daughter's hand while shop owners emerged from their storefronts, speaking in hushed, frightened tones. In Sao Paulo, construction workers set down their tools and stared upward, cement mixers still churning behind them. Forgotten, aboard the flagship Sovereign's Wrath, Commander Zekthal watched the human response through holographic displays with something resembling amusement. His four-fingered hands traced patterns in the air, bringing up tactical readouts from across the human planet. Look at them, he gestured to Sub-Commander Velter, his voice carrying the dry rasp of his species. Scurrying like insects, their military leaders meet in underground chambers, while their civilians stand paralyzed in the open. Veltara's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among their kind. 17 worlds we've conquered, Commander. Each one submitted within the deadline. These humans will be no different. The bridge crew of the flagship beings, whose civilization had mastered interstellar travel, while humans still used stone tools, regarded the primitive blue-green world below with casual contempt. Their weapons could turn the planet's surface to glass within hours. The humans had to know this. But in a farmhouse outside Denver, retired Marine Sergeant James Murphy was teaching his 12-year-old grandson how to fieldstrip an M1 rifle that had belonged to his great-grandfather. "Pop," the boy asked, "are we really going to fight them?" Murphy's weathered hands never stopped moving as he cleaned the weapon's components. "Son, my daddy fought Nazis. His daddy fought in the trenches of France. And his daddy's daddy stood at Gettysburg." Murphy, men don't kneel. Across the globe, similar scenes played out in living rooms and workshops, in temples and schools. In the favelas of Rio, community organizers who had spent decades fighting for clean water and fair wages looked up at the alien ships and felt not fear, but familiar anger. They had faced impossible odds before. In the townships of South Africa, grandmothers who had survived apartheid began organizing neighborhood watches, just as they had during the worst of the oppression. The resistance began not with grand military maneuvers, but with small acts of defiance that spread like wildfire across social media. In Helsinki, a teenager named Eric hacked every electronic billboard in the city center to display the same message: Earth stands. The video of his work went viral within minutes. In small towns across Kansas, farmers began welding armor plates onto their tractors, knowing full well that farm equipment wouldn't scratch an alien hull, but needing to do something, anything other than surrender. The image that truly ignited the global uprising came from a war-torn city in Syria, where a 6-year-old girl named Amara sat in the rubble of her home, clutching a torn and dirty flag. When alien drones descended to scan the area, she held that flag higher, her small voice carrying across the devastation. "This is my home." By the end of the second day, something unprecedented in human history was taking shape. Israeli and Palestinian engineers worked side by side in Tel Aviv, pooling resources to build electromagnetic pulse devices. Indian call center workers who spoke 17 languages between them became communication coordinators, linking resistance cells from Lagos to Lima. In Tokyo, elderly craftsmen who had spent their lives making precision instruments began fashioning guidance systems for improvised rockets. Corporate enemies became allies over NetApple, and Samsung engineers shared classified technologies. while Lockheed Martin and Sukhoi pilots trained together, teaching each other the capabilities of their respective aircraft. Social media platforms that had spent years dividing humanity into echo chambers suddenly carried the same unified message in hundreds of languages. We do not kneel. The first major engagement came at dawn on the third day, just 6 hours before the alien ultimatum expired. Coordinated strikes launched simultaneously from 43 locations across 6 continents. Ancient Soviet-era missiles fired alongside cutting-edge stealth fighters. Fishing boats retrofitted with anti-aircraft guns sailed alongside nuclear submarines. In the skies above New York, impossible dogfights played out as human pilots threw their aircraft at alien interceptors with reckless courage. Most were vaporized within seconds, but for every human craft destroyed, another pilot followed, and another, until the sheer volume of attacks overwhelmed alien defense systems. When a jury-rigged EMP device detonated against the hull of a cruiser over Beijing, the impossible happened. The alien ship's lights flickered, then died, and the massive vessel plummeted into the Gobi Desert with a thunderous crash that registered on seismographs in Mongolia. The silence on the bridge of Sovereign's Wrath lasted exactly 14 seconds. Commander Zechthal stared at the tactical display showing the destroyed cruiser, his black eyes reflecting the red warning lights now flashing throughout the ship. "Impossible," he whispered. "They should have surrendered." Every species surrenders when faced with superior firepower. Sub-Commander Veltar's mandibles trembled with what might have been fear. "Sir, we're receiving reports from 17 other sectors. The humans are... They're throwing themselves at our ships with no regard for survival. They're using civilian aircraft, sir, passenger jets loaded with explosives. Outside the flagship's viewports, the space around Earth's atmosphere filled with debris-twisted metal from both human and alien craft. The detritus of impossible battles where technologically inferior humans threw themselves against vastly superior alien technology through sheer force of will. In the ruins of Damascus, former enemies worked side by side, loading ammunition belts into machine guns mounted on apartment balconies. Rebels and government soldiers who had been killing each other just days before now shared water bottles and aimed at the same target's alien scout ships sweeping low over the city. In the Amazon basin, indigenous tribes that had maintained traditional ways of life for centuries emerged from the jungle, carrying AK-47s given to them by Brazilian commandos, their faces painted for war as they had been for generations. The cities of Europe, scarred by 2 world wars within living memory, erupted with coordinated resistance. In Warsaw, grandchildren of Holocaust survivors set up sniper nests in the same buildings where their grandparents had fought. The Nazis. London's underground became a command center, as tube workers guided resistance fighters through tunnels that had sheltered civilians during the Blitz, as alien ships pressed their attacks on major population centers. Humanity's response defied every prediction in the invaders' tactical databases. In Lagos, university students, who had been protesting government corruption just weeks before, now used the same organizational skills to coordinate mortar strikes. The favela residents of São Paulo transformed their intimate knowledge of the city's sprawling maze into an urban warfare advantage, leading alien ground troops into kill zones prepared by Brazilian military special forces. Even children contributed. 12-year-olds in Seoul, who had grown up playing video games, found themselves operating drone swarms with an intuitive skill that amazed professional pilots. Their small recreational drones, thousands of them, swarmed alien sensors like electronic mosquitoes, creating enough confusion for human fighters to slip through defensive screens. The turning point came when Maria Santos, a software engineer from Barcelona, who had been unemployed just a week earlier, made a discovery that would change everything. Working in a Madrid subway station converted into a tech center, surrounded by tablets and laptops salvaged from bombed buildings, she identified the pattern in alien communication networks. "They're all connected," she announced to the international team of hackers and programmers crowded around her makeshift workstation. "Every ship, every drone, every ground unit, they all report to a central artificial intelligence." Dr. Juki Tanaka, a quantum computing specialist from Kyoto, leaned over her shoulder, his eyes widening with realization. "If we could introduce a virus into that system, ... double quotes. The plan they developed over the next 18 hours was audacious beyond belief. A small strike team would have to infiltrate the flagship itself and physically connect to the alien command network. The volunteers for the mission came from every continent and walk of life. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, U.S. Air Force, had lost her squadron over Los Angeles, but managed to eject safely. Dmitry Volkov, a former Spetsnaz operative, had been herding sheep in Siberia before the invasion began. Dr. Ahmed Hassan, an Egyptian surgeon, had traded his scalpel for an assault rifle when alien forces leveled Cairo General Hospital. Together with 8 others, they formed humanity's most desperate gambit. The plan required perfect timing. While ground forces across the globe launched diversionary attacks, drawing alien forces away from the flagship, the strike team would approach in a captured alien scout craft, using identification codes extracted from wreckage by MIT linguistics professors, working around the clock to decode alien languages. The odds of success were approximately 3,000 to 1. They went anyway. The infiltration began at 0200 hours, local time, as diversionary attacks erupted across 3 continents simultaneously. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal trackers guided armored columns across terrain no conventional military had ever navigated, striking at alien mining operations with the fury of people defending land they had protected for 40,000 years. In the mountains of Afghanistan, fighters who had spent decades battling occupying forces adapted their tactics to new enemies, turning caves and valleys into death traps for alien ground units. Meanwhile, the strike team's stolen craft drifted through the debris field surrounding the flagship, its hull scarred by battle damage that camouflaged the humans inside. Rodriguez piloted with steady hands that belied her hammering heart, while Hassan monitored alien communication frequencies, translating commands in real time. The flagship's docking bay yawned before them like the mouth of a metal leviathan. Inside the alien vessel, the strike team moved through corridors that seemed designed for beings larger and more confident than any human. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on walls that curved according to alien architectural principles, while the low thrumming of the ship's engines created an almost hypnotic rhythm. Volkov took point, his weapon ready, communicating through hand signals learned in conflicts across Earth. They encountered their first alien patrol near what appeared to be a command center, 3 beings in armor that shimmered like oil on water, their weapons humming with contained energy. The firefight lasted exactly 17 seconds, and left 2 humans wounded, but still moving. Hassan sealed their wounds with medical supplies adapted from alien first aid kits, while Rodriguez uploaded the virus Maria Santos had created, her fingers flying across a control interface that responded to touch despite being designed for alien anatomy. The upload bar on her tablet crept forward with agonizing slowness. 62%, 71%, 84%. Across Earth's surface, the effects began immediately. Alien craft that had moved with predatory grace suddenly flew erratic patterns, their pilots struggling with controls that no longer responded correctly. In the skies above Mumbai, an entire squadron of alien fighters collided with each other as their targeting systems fed them false data. Ground units in Berlin found their weapons firing randomly, some turning on their own forces. Commander Zechthal watched his tactical displays dissolve into chaos, status reports scrolling past too quickly to process. Ship after ship reported system failures, communication blackouts, navigation errors. How is this possible? He screamed at his bridge crew, his composed facade cracking like ice in spring. They're primitives. They barely understand their own technology. But in the lower decks of his own flagship, human virus code spread through quantum processing cores, turning the aliens' greatest advantage, their interconnected command structure, into their greatest vulnerability. The final battle erupted across every sphere of human existence. In orbit around Earth, crippled alien ships struggled to maintain formation while human forces pressed their advantage. Ancient Russian ballistic missiles, held in reserve for 50 years, launched alongside brand-new Chinese anti-satellite weapons and improvised rockets built in garage workshops from Detroit to Delhi. The International Space Station, abandoned just days earlier, became a staging point for astronauts turned warriors, using maintenance pods as attack craft. On Earth's surface, the sight of alien ships faltering ignited something primal in human hearts. Crowds that had hidden in basements and subway tunnels poured into the streets, not in celebration but in fury. Molotov cocktails flew at grounded alien craft, while police officers and protesters, enemies just a week before, fought side by side with weapons ranging from high-tech energy rifles to medieval swords pulled from museum displays. In the final moments, as alien command systems collapsed completely and their fleet began retreating toward the edge of the solar system, something beautiful happened in the ruins of human civilization. Across the globe, people who had never met began singing the same songs, national anthems, folk ballads, protest chants, Lullabies their grandmothers had taught them, creating a chorus that rose from every continent. In the rubble of New York, in the favelas of Rio, in the steppes of Mongolia and the highlands of Scotland, human voices joined together, not in surrender, but in defiance. They sang for the dead, for the living, for the future they had fought to protect. Commander Zechthal's flagship was the last to disappear beyond Earth's atmosphere. Its commander's final transmission, a mixture of rage and bewilderment. They could have lived as our subjects. They chose to die as humans instead. The aftermath was silence broken by crying, by laughter, by the sound of rubble being cleared, and survivors calling out to each other in 100 languages. Earth was bloodied, scarred, forever changed. Cities lay in ruins, and the dead numbered in the millions. But the planet still turned, and on its surface, humans still walked upright. In the weeks that followed, as the world began to rebuild, children would ask their parents about the war, about how humanity had faced impossible odds and survived. The answers came in many languages, but carried the same meaning. They thought we would kneel, but they had never met a species that found strength in struggle, hope in desperation, unity in diversity. They had never met humans who knew that some things are worth dying for. And that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear. They thought we would surrender. They forgot we are human.